really hard to recreate a good story if you don't understand the framework behind what makes a good story. So I think people just feel, again, it's like any type of thing that you do. You try to do it before you really know what you're doing, and then you get overwhelmed. And then you try to copy what other people do. It doesn't really feel like you, or it's not working, and then you don't know what how to adjust and optimize because you don't know the principles behind it anyway. You just kind of copied other people. So I think like I learned how to write really well from frameworks and I don't think about them anymore, but having those in my mind when I first started were so helpful. But if you try to do any of that without understanding the principles behind it or following a framework, it's just going to feel really confusing. The most popular storytelling framework is the before after bridge. So you start with before you had a transformation, and then you end with then this happened. So, like one of the most common hooks that you will see on social, and if you want to start with storytelling right now, like literally just go on LinkedIn, you will see this hook, I promise you. It says, I used to feel blank until I blank. Like, that is like the quintessential story hook that everybody starts with. And then what you would do from that moment is explain how life was before this transformation. And then in the middle of that, you're going to have a moment of realization. And then after that, you're going to show all the things that got better because of that realization and the behavior changed. And the idea of doing something like that is you're speaking to your reader and showing them a potential future state by using yourself or someone else as an example. I think that's the easiest storytelling framework to start with. If you read your piece of content, if you've ever said what, like make sure you do this thing. Like if you make a claim, X is important. Most people struggle with Y, whatever it is. Make sure that your next sentence then backs that up to explain why that is true. Otherwise, you're creating this logical gap where you expect the reader to just trust you blindly. And it's so much more powerful if you actually come and back that up with either a really strong opinion or evidence of what you just said to be actual truth. And then once you say why, then show people how to do it. You don't have to give it all away, but you can even say, like, if I were to get started today, I would do these three things. Or if you want to get more specific, then you can say, here's exactly how to do what I just said you need to do and why it's important. You understand that now. Here's how to do it. Here's the 5-step process, whatever it is. So the what, why, how is really, really powerful. What it comes down to in a good hook, but then obviously throughout the rest of your content, is tapping into people's emotions. And when you do a good job making people feel something, you're going to then be in the top of their mind when they're thinking, when they're feeling that again, and they're trying to figure out, like, oh, what do I do to learn more about this? Or, yes, like now I have this problem I want to solve. Who's going to be there? It's going to be the person that you've connected to those emotions. So there are tons of ways to tap into those emotions, but honestly, the best place to start is to pay attention to the emotions that you feel when you are reading a piece of content. So if you have no idea where to start, I would do these three things. Write down every single hook or post that actually captured your attention. Then um, write down why it captured your attention and what emotions it made you feel. And then try to take that vibe or that deconstructed hook or post and write your own version of it based on what you know that you want your audience to feel. Make sure that from a really zoomed out level that everything you write has a strong hook or lead in, then has something in the middle that supports or follows through or actually, presents the value that you promised in that hook, and then that you have a takeaway. So I think a lot of people kind of have a hook usually, and then they make an argument, and then it kind of just ends. So the takeaway is really important to wrap things up and to synthesize your argument or to have like a really strong final line that empowers people and moves people to action. I think people are really stuck at the moment on how to market themselves and their business. They're just like, what do I do? Like I have all this conflicting advice. Like I know that there's like the funnel. I know I need to be creating all this different content to market the problem, speak to the, the pain points, the solution, whatever, but like how do I put myself into that? Like, do people care about my story? Like how much is too much? Like what's the line of oversharing? And it's really interesting because when you are working as a business of one, or the founder of a small business, so much of getting people to think about you and care about you and know, like, and trust you is for them to actually know a bit of you, or at least feel like they do. And that's, it's a little bit easier, not easy. I mean, brands are really struggle with this, but when you have like a whole team working towards creating this brand voice or whatever, like you have that help. Like when you're working alone, it's like I'm just me. Like it's confusing. So a lot of the times we kind of like we spend a lot of time on voice and tone and like, okay, but is that really how you would say that? And like, do you want to take an opportunity to let people know a little bit more? Or like, is it time to share the story? So there's a lot of those like back and forth creative questions.